Arendt wants to question the common sense notion of what anti-Semitism is. She believes that the term comes with lots of historical baggage, and what anti-Semitism is in her definition actually doesn't have to do with Jew hatred. Now, Arendt wants to question the notion of anti-Semitism. She believes that the term comes with a lot of historical baggage, and anti-Semitism to her actually doesn't mean Jew hatred as it means to a lot of other people. To explain this point, Arendt goes through several mainstream views of what anti-Semitism is and just rejects them one by one. First, she believes that anti-Semitism is a xenophobic response or an identification with nationalism. But this is wrong because anti-Semitism started in the late 19th century, or at least modern anti-Semitism, and this also coincided with the decline of nation-states or nationalism. Furthermore, anti-Semitism doesn't have to do with nationalism because the Nazis weren't nationalistic. Their movement was international in scope, and if you look at Nazi texts like Arendt did, they do not conform to a nationalistic pride. The second common sense notion is the scapegoat theory. She explains this with the joke that was told in the First World War. It goes, and anti-Semitism claimed that the Jews had caused the war. The reply was, yes, the Jews and the bicyclists. Why the bicyclists? Asks the one. Why the Jews? Asks the other. The idea is that the Jews were just one innocent group out of all the others, and it was just by chance that they were picked by the Nazis. Arendt jokes the scapegoat theory. While it's true that modern dictatorships use terror against innocent groups in order to maintain power, this happens as a last mechanism. To gain power, they must first conform to an ideology that the majority already adheres to, and terror must drive this ideology. Therefore, the Nazi anti-Semitic ideology must have had its origins elsewhere, and there must be a reason why Nazis picked the Jews. It wasn't just arbitrary. It wasn't just an arbitrary scapegoat choice. So the scapegoat theory doesn't hold water, and the next mainstream view that Arendt rejects is this idea called the internal anti-Semitism theory. This theory says that the Jews have been attacked forever, and Jew hatred is actually a normal thing. It's been eternally present, and there's no explanation as to why the Jews need to be hated. It's just how the world is. Arendt says this idea is dangerous. It has self-reinforced the Jews themselves. The Jews unify around this concept that there is this eternal negativity towards them, eternal hate, and they use it as a tool and a reason to continue their own behavior. So in a sense that Jews are somewhat responsible for this continued presence of Jew hatred. In addition, the eternal anti-Semitism theory has advantages over the scapegoat theory because it does provide a positive answer to the question, why the Jews of all people? Both the scapegoat theory and anti-Semitism theories are dangerous because they used excuses for not accepting responsibility. They're both escapist, Arendt says. The scapegoat theory discharges the victim of any responsibility. It seems quite adequate to reality in which nothing strikes us more forcefully than the utter innocence of an individual caught in the horror machine and his utter inability to change his fate. The eternal anti-Semitism theory absolves both the anti-Semites and the Jews. The anti-Semites argue that their behavior is normal, and the Jews accept this hatred unconditionally as a way to stay together. Just as anti-Semites understandably desire to escape responsibility for their deeds, so Jews, attacked and on the defensive, even more understandably do not wish under any circumstance to discuss their share of responsibility. So why is escapism dangerous? Well, the refusal to act against and think about consequences strangely resembles bureaucracy, which enabled modern forms of dictatorship, like the Nazi regime. Arendt wants to say that this is not simply a shrug off responsibility. To reconcile the notion of modern anti-Semitism, we must find a historical and analytical approach to the problem, which we can use facts and guide our investigation. And this is what Arendt strives for in this first part of the book. Modern anti-Semitism must be seen in a more general framework of the development of the nation-state, and at the same time, its source must be found in certain aspects of Jewish history, and specifically Jewish functions during the last centuries. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. We're going to go over the next chapters soon.